Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things RLCS and Rocket League eSports. I'm your host, Wavepunk, and with me, I've got the two most different-looking people on the broadcast: the whitest, Mr. Shogun, and the least whitest, Mr. Quinn.
Least whitest, okay.
Well played, well played.
That's there's just a very, very distinct difference in your skin tones there.
You could have just gone for my really round head.
I'm surprised you haven't gotten more sun out here in California.
Dude, I've been trying, okay? The problem, I swear it's because I got part Scottish blood that I'm partially tanning, partially burning, and that just comes together to just keep me at the same skin color.
You're just constantly burning there. Take a look at the RLCS stand-ins here as they stand after the completion of league play. After all the dust has settled, it's Cloud9 sitting crowned at the top, and G2 Esports right behind them. That one loss that Cloud9 has, they got it from G2.
And for G2, it's going to be a great story for them. They've had so many problems. Kronovi is going to make his first ever LAN ever since winning back in Season 1. He's done everything now. He's won, he's not even made it, and he's been in the middle of the pack. Finally, he's going to get another shot at it.
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. I can only imagine for Kronovi after all of those failures, really, especially by his standards. I mean, it's just got to feel so good to finally be able to make it to a LAN.
The G2 fans finally have something to celebrate in RLCS. You know, they have been so frustrated for so many seasons, and they're finally there. And you also saw down at the bottom, Allegiance and Renegades. They will be in our promotion relegation tournament later on in the season here, but they will not be playing in the playoffs this next week. It is G2, Cloud9, Ghost Energy, Rogue, and FlyQuest who rounded our top 6 teams who we will see again next season.
Yeah, and those teams, obviously, they definitely deserve it. They've been working their socks off. Just NA looked so much like EU did last season, of everyone is just so close to one another. They're refusing to drop games. 6-1 was what you needed to get top 2. That is ludicrous. We've seen 5-2, we've seen 4-3 previously, but 6-1, you didn't get to make any mistakes, or you didn't make it.
Absolutely, and you talk about everything's so close, so it becomes more and more difficult to predict. Just to talk about who's hot in North America, who's hot, who's not, all these teams. Let's talk about it again for this final week here of league play. Who's hot for me right now? It's G2.
Justify.
Justify.
Or not?
No, who's
okay, we're just gonna go around
Who's
first?
it for you? Yeah, just go around.
Cloud9.
Cloud9.
G2.
Okay. Now we can justify.
Now justify. Hooray!
Here's my thing. I'm just gonna go with what has already been said. G2's made it to LAN. It's finally happened. They've done it well. They're in the top 2. They don't even have to play in the regional playoffs to make it to LAN. They've already done it. They're already in the top 4. It's great to see them here, and I'm so excited to finally get to say that G2's hot. I've been waiting to say these things all season. It's great.
And the great thing is for G2, the complaint has always been the lack of consistency.
Yes.
We always say, which version of G2 are we ever going to get? But when you go 6-1 in a season, we can now get rid of that entirely. We know they've got the consistency, otherwise they wouldn't even be top 2.
We basically said that, you know, which G2 are we going to see? We saw the good G2 essentially the whole season, and that's why they're here now.
Yeah, the biggest reason for me why G2 is hot is really just because they haven't choked at this point of the season. Every time, right towards the very end, when it all starts to matter, we see them just kind of fall apart, and they're...
An important thing to know for this is Kronovi is undefeated at LAN. Never been beaten at all. Rizzo with Take 3. Great performance. North America's best performing team back in Season 2. JNAPS, this will be his first one, but if there's ever been a player I look at and just go, yeah, he'll be fine, it will be JNAPS. So I think they're just going to do absolutely fine. We're not going to have the, will they perform at LAN question either.
Yeah, no, you were mentioning that, you know, G2 has been like one game away so many seasons, and finally here they're that one game away, and they win that game, they make it happen, and G2 will finally be at LAN.
Yeah, this has been like looming over their head, you know, just the past failures and being able to do it this season. I heard talks from the G2 members saying, if we don't do it this season, like, we're all calling it quits, we're not even going to like just kick one member, just completely splitting up amicably and trying out something new. Obviously, it wasn't working, but they finally made something happen, and I think JNAPS has proven at LAN. I mean, he did great at X Games and all these other past events this summer, so I have no problems gambling on G2 to come strong at LAN.
Yep, G2 there. The other team we want to talk about right now, Cloud9, #1 team in North America. First time we've seen them, like the North American team, not even North America, Europe, all of RLCS has been about the newcomers, the rookies this season, and Gimmick, Squishy, Torment, they all show up and they get the #1 seed moving into the playoffs.
Yeah, we were always going to be questioning what they could do when they turned up, and they've just brought a breath of fresh air to the gameplay styles that we see in North America. Passing plays all the time, so direct with what they're trying to do. They just don't give teams room to breathe, and that's exactly why they've taken the #1 spot, because they dominated.
Yeah, they had just the most ridiculous. You see that car? Do you see what car is scoring the goal here?
I thought a second ago you were going to try and turn it around on me, Wave, and say, okay, well, justify why you think C9's hot.
I mean, they're #1 in North America. There's not much justification.
There was one word that justifies why C9 is currently hot. Proteus. That is it. You don't need anything more.
That should never have happened.
But it did happen.
The DLC, I want to see the DLC sales after that game.
Yeah, right. I would love to see how many more of those cars got sold. Like, they took a match that effectively didn't have that much playoff implications. I mean, Cloud9 was already in the top.
There was no wait.
NRG was already in the top 4. It was going to stay where it was, and they made it interesting by watching NRG just brutally win the first 2 games, and then consistently switching to different cars and reverse sweeping NRG in the last match of the season. That was bonkers.
Yeah, and I said it when we got towards the end of that series as well, of in reverse order of things that we expected to less expected. Most expected, Cloud9 get it in a reverse sweep. You could always imagine that one. Second most, Proteus being used in the competitive scene. And the least expected thing, Fireburner losing a 50-50 to finish off the series.
What else can you say, right? I mean, the whole weekend's a little bit abnormally. I'm still surprised G2 has made it into LAN. Like, I feel like there should have been some point they failed, but
it didn't have the drama we were expecting.
It's funny because like every season it's been like the expectation of like, really, G2's gonna make it, right? They're gonna win this. They're not actually about to be out of LAN. And then this season we come up with the reverse expectation. So now that they have done it in league play, they don't have to go to the playoffs. They did it in league play. It actually feels surprising the other way around, right?
Yeah, I mean, it brings up kind of an interesting point. Did G2 go into this LAN as underdogs?
Into which LAN?
Into the playoffs.
Oh.
I think. Sorry, not LAN.
I mean, they went. I mean, like before last week? You mean like would they consider them underdogs? I mean, they just had that cloud looming over the top of Mount Cronovi. You know, there was this big old storm trying to crush it down.
Yeah, I have to say, when we came into this week, we had the 4-4-1 teams. We did, and every single one of those I was looking at. I think it was only 3 4-1 teams. Then we had NRG, but I was looking at those and just saying, okay, if any of those get through, apart from G2, I think they're safe. But G2 will always have that question mark over them in the very tight clutch matches. And I didn't want to see that tested until we get further into the tournament. So they'll be happy about getting in here in the easiest way possible. Their fans will be buzzing over that fact.
Yeah.
They can't be happier.
Like we said, they finally got something to celebrate here. They're in LAN. They'll make it through. But the other team, we already talked about them, G2, or Cloud9 rather. And Cloud9, I mentioned it, they're rookies, right? There's a bunch of players here. Torment's been in before, but Gimmick and Squishy had never played in the RLCS up until this point. They hadn't quite made it the season prior. And as we look over at the player accolades, it's no surprise who's on the top of these boards. Looking at the striker here, the golden striker for North America, your winner is going to be Gimmick right there up at the top, 1.12 goals per game. He was basically at the top the entire season, and he ends at the top here in North America.
Yeah, me and Gibbs came into the season just going, this will be the man to keep an eye on. I've never felt so justified in my entire life. Gimmick stepped up. He had a heck of a team around him, but to finish off the way he did all the time, positioning beautiful, ball control fantastic, striking magnificent.
Yeah, probably the most clutch player I think this season, in this season across any team. Gimmick, there was never a point where I considered him to be a failure. He always came in so strong for his team, and so that's why it really impressed me the most, especially in your rookie season. That's such a difficult thing to do. The mental game, we see so many newcomers come into RLCS and just fail time and time again.
Now you see Gimmick up here at the top, but he's not alone at the top. It's Cloud9 here tying for first spot. Squishy Muffin's also the leader in assists here for North America, which is crazy. Both of them have 0.77 assists per game. And the fact that it's even possible, like just thinking about it, like Gimmick scores the most on his team and also assists the most in the league alongside his friend Squishy Muffins, who assists the most in the league. Like, you'd think you'd have to choose one or the other, but somehow he's the best assister and the best scorer in the league for North America.
Yeah, and we've got to give some shout out to Torment as well, because if he doesn't play the way he does, those two don't get to play as the duo.
Great
that
point.
just doesn't, that is not allowed to happen. But to have them performing that well together, and yeah, as you mentioned, having it be the exact same after playing so many games is pretty nuts.
Yeah, and I think what is so awesome about seeing Gimmick and Squishy sharing that position shows just how much control that team has to be able to have so many assists across all the members of your team. Shows that they're really dominating possession of the ball.
Yes. They certainly are. But moving over to the defensive side of the ball, who's the savior of the season here in North America? Not Cloud9, finally. They don't get the complete sweep on the award. Seabass from Allegiance. We've talked about this before. He had 1.96 saves per game. The guy was definitely doing work on the defense, partially because they had to play so much defense. Allegiant ending here in the 7th place spot. They actually did not end in last place according to the final, I think, win percentage standings there. But they come out with, Seabass there in first.
Yeah, Seabass, we were kind of looking towards Allegiance this season and going, we hope they're not going to be another set to destroy. And they weren't. Yes, they had to play a lot of defense, but only one player we see up here. It was Seabass. He had his role on that team. He performed it well. They definitely tried to keep a lot of goals out. And compared to what they were against, the goals against for that team was relatively low. They were still last for that stat, but it could have been so much worse without Seabass.
Yeah, I really agree. I think that the Clutch Savior medal is kind of like, it's a little bittersweet.
You heard it from Classics when he was on the desk. He's like, the players almost don't want to win it because it means they're having to play so much defense, you know?
And yeah, it's 100% correct. It's a fact of, as analysts, we don't use the Savior or the amount of saves per game as a way of showing who is exactly the best defender. We use the goals against. But getting those saves, and this, in what we've seen this season, we'll talk about it later on when we go to Europe, that stat's becoming a little bit more useful in terms of now we can use it as an indicator as to who's got what role on a team, but it's not really used for too much else. Yeah,
well, Seabass there definitely doing work. Congratulations to him on getting the award. Now, the award that we've been wondering about for the longest time here because we can't look at, there's no leaderboards for it. The MVP for North America has finally been decided here. Ladies and gentlemen, your North American MVP, JNaps from G2. They've got two things to celebrate now. Not only are they inland, but they also have the North American MVP.
Yeah, JNaps, he's never been to a lab before. He definitely made sure that his team was going to be able to do that. And JNaps, he's an MVP in every single sense. You look at him, you look at G2, and I've got all the respect in the world for the G2 squad, but they do not make it without JNaps. He is the definition of MVP.
Yeah, he just kind of slots in so perfectly, and he's not afraid to adapt to any position on the field, and he does all of them. Just really, I think he's the best player in any position on his team when it comes to defense, when it comes to offense, and he's willing to take that position in the back of the field, just playing defense all the time, playing that third man, or moving forward. He's so adaptable, and I think that's what makes him the scariest and MVP.
Now, this award is an award that is voted on by analysts and experts in the community, so he came out with the most votes. Coming up in the runners-up, you saw it on the graphic there, Gimmick was in second, so Cloud9 nearly getting almost a sweep here. They didn't have the savior of the season, but also Lethamyr there coming up behind them. Those two players getting kind of a head nod there, almost winning the award as they performed very well for their team. So, guys, it's been crazy here from RLCS. RLRS also concluded this week, so we can take a look at how their standings sat after their league play was over. They do not have a playoffs or anything. They will play in the promotion relegation tournament, and believe it or not, nothing out of the ordinary here. Fibian, who's been at the top the entire time, stays at the top, undefeated in the RLRS.
Yeah, both regions have got these types of teams, the ones that wanted to prove themselves going into the RLRS and say, look, we don't deserve to be here. They've got themselves that 7-0. They're going to have potentially the easier matchup against Allegiance. I think it's Allegiance, or is it Renegades in their first match? Either way,
Renegades, but
they'll be thinking to themselves, look, we're pretty confident about this entire series, and they'll want to try and make themselves get into that position for the RLCS next season.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about on overtime, actually, is Fibian going to even make it into the RLCS way back when before the play-in? And I said yes. I said they were going to do it confidently, and they didn't end up doing it. They went to RLRS, but they went and destroyed. And I think they actually built a lot of confidence in themselves. And as a very young team, I think that the guys are like 17 on average. I think this is going to be huge for them to get comfortable with RLRS and move up into RLCS slowly, something we haven't seen any teams able to do because it's a new format.
Absolutely, yeah. So Fibian and Out of Style, the two teams from North America who will be competing in the promotion relegation tournament. There's a few weeks out, so you know that Fibian's going to have a chip on their shoulder after having been so close last season to making RLCS. They will be so motivated, so that's going to be a very exciting tournament to watch. I can't wait to see how that all shapes up over there. So, guys, let's take a look very quickly here at the bracket for the regional playoffs for North America and how things are going to shape up. Two of the teams there in that first round will be able to move on, and then those teams in the semifinals are the teams that will qualify to represent North America in the World Championships. So those first two rounds, that first round is going to be extremely important. But we'll talk about this in more detail later on. But this, so far, as you just see, is the bracket.
Yeah, and we're going to see in that very first match. Rest in peace, Sizzle Your Carb. It is going to be, unfortunately, Sizz versus Jacob, NRG versus Rogue. That is going to be a heck of a way to start us off.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys your thoughts right now, but we're gonna do this entirely later. Like later, we're gonna go down and we're just gonna break down exactly who we think is gonna win and everything. So that'll be a lot of fun, guys. We're in the middle of Rival Week for the Pro Rivalry tournament as well. So be checking out twitch.tv/Pro Rivalry and also tune into their Twitter @Pro Rivalry for more details on when those matches are happening. Right in the middle right now, a lot of these matches are previews of matches that are gonna happen in the playoffs or in the promotion relegation. So a lot of exciting stuff that we see Pro Rivalry doing right now.
And they have a very interesting style or concept for these matches. It's best of 3, best of 7s. So it is very long and drawn out. We see a lot of evolving happen in these matches.
Rocket League.
Yeah. Exactly. You get into the first series is completely different to the last series because they are so good at adapting to one another.
Absolutely. But guys, North America has been pretty crazy. It was awesome to watch the league plays just kind of settle out there at the end. So we're going to do it all again here over in Europe when we come back to overtime. We're going to be going through the European Quick Chat, give you the European MVP, all the rest of the accolades as well. That and more when we come back to overtime.